Hey, what's up? Hello, Futurecasters. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Past, Present, Futurecast, the podcast that's also a tarot card reading. Once again, we're going to dive right into this week's episode. I am sitting here with Chelsey Harter, who is, in addition to one of my close friends, is a psychic medium and spirit artist. Chelsey, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. We have talked about this for so long. I'm so excited. I'm just so ready to hop in.
It's happening. It's finally happening. And I am so excited to talk about you and your work because I think it's an area of the woo sphere, the witchy world, the metaphysical that people are getting more and more interested in. And that's coming more and more to the forefront. So when we say you are a psychic medium and a spirit artist, what does that mean? How do you describe your work to other people?
Oh my gosh, such an amazing question. So, a psychic medium, which we all have these capabilities within us, but I'm using it as my profession, as your phone to the other side, your friend that's in the in between, your bestie that's in the ether. I'm here to connect with you, your loved ones, your pets, and also your angels. And for some of you, this is like working with your goddesses, your deities, whomever that you lean into in your spiritual practice and realm is how I want to support and connect with you. When I say spirit artist, that is my space for play. And so spirit art is just connecting with spirit or loved ones specifically, either working in portrait space or, there's other forms where you can just share a message through a visual. So it's a beautiful space of play too. And so I love that duality of that one-on-one connection and then just a space for creation and play.
Beautiful. Yeah, Chelsey makes these gorgeous watercolor has been a primary medium for you. I know you're
Yes.
kind of moving into some other things, but a lot of what I've seen has been these gorgeous watercolor portraits of loved ones or pets. Oftentimes they're ones who are not here on earth with us anymore, those who have passed on. And you do a beautiful job of capturing their essence. And I believe, like my understanding, maybe this is an assumption, but I believe that you're also doing some channeling work with the creation of the art at the same time.
Yes. So something that I do when I work on these pieces, so when a client comes to me and they're bringing forward a loved one who maybe has recently passed and is looking to be memorialized, or this is just like a loved one they're trying to connect with, what I do is I invite them to send me like 7 pictures of them throughout their life. And then when I connect with that spirit, I ask them to show me which of these pictures did you feel the most alive and you in. And then I take that photo as the reference photo. And then I go through every image and I'm looking for some background elements. I also pull cards and I'm asking for visuals or memories to be brought into this image. So, for example, one of my clients, Katie, she'll know and she'll love that I even mentioned her. She brought me her granddad and they grew up I want to say Lake Michigan. I'm so sorry if I get it wrong, but it was a very large lake and they spent many times going there. And in the portrait that I did for him, he asked me specifically to paint the water midday because he says, and that's when the light sparkles off the water, just like it does in the love and the eyes of everyone that I have in my life. One shattered. Of course, my Pisces bitch ass was crying. Papa, granddad, shatter my spirit. But some of these photos are so beautiful. Like I remember painting my friend that passed away and he showed himself by this lake he would go to growing up, sitting in the grass read. And just as the dusk was setting, there's just certain moments and memories that they're tuning into and they're showing me that are these embodied essence of their life. And I just love to capture that.
Wow, what a gift to those who are receiving these pieces of artwork as well. So, one of the things that I know you have been expanding into lately has been pet mediumship. Is that different than
Oh my gosh.
human mediumship?
Yeah.
And how?
Okay, so pet mediumship, let's just bring Miss Honey into this conversation because she has been
Hello,
a
Miss
big
Honey.
activator for me in pet mediumship.
Miss
Since she
Honey
came
is
in
a sweet little honey-colored pooch next to Chelsey
pooch,
here.
she's a Tucson original. Now,
And you are a Tucson transplant, which we'll talk about.
which we will talk about. So, pet mediumship is something I've done kind of sprinkled over the years. And doing those pet portraits was my dipping the toe in the water of it. But something about pets is that their energy, they operate at a higher frequency than like sometimes even human spirit because they are the embodiment of unconditional love. And so to really tune into their energy, it can take not necessarily a lot of effort, but it's a little bit more fine tuned and their perspective and experience is very different. Like, okay, I did a reading last week and this cat said, I hate the squirrels because they can get higher than me. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there like, what does he mean by higher? Because they can get in the trees and we can't. And so he lived his days in agony because he could not get as high as the squirrels outside. And I was just like, the part of me that has done so many really intense, like one-on-one, like spirit connections where there's really intense and emotional passings, to then having the giggle of an irritated cat that really just needs to chase that squirrel. Like, it's such a nice contrast. I know it sounds silly to say, but like to see that ease of play, that depth of connection. Like another funny example, not funny, but just like another perspective. There was this one cat that was talking about this woman who was caring for her elderly father. And she said, you get so mad at Papa. I don't know why you don't bat him. And this cat was encouraging her to hit him so he'd behave because that's
how
what
we do it.
Hey, this cat was like, I do it with my brother. You should do it with him. It'll make you feel better. I was like, I don't think she can abuse her elderly father, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Just smack him a little bit. Just a little claws in.
It's fine. And so like connecting in that energy, I see how healing it is for people because these pets are like, they're a world. Like they sit beside us and watch us and observe us in some of our most tender and lonely moments. And they see us maybe more than we often realize. And I think in my career, I'm almost seeing like where I'm like, why didn't I open that door sooner? Because it's such an important space that needs care and support. And so I'm like, I'm pretty good at care and support. Let me hop in with these pets.
That is, I would say, some of the main things you are good at, Miss Practical Pisces. And I should mention that you go by the Practical Pisces. So if you're 5-6 minutes into this interview and you're already like, I need to look Chelsey up, Instagram, Practical Pisces, that's where she's at.
If I could touch on where the Practical Pisces, like the name comes from, because it's so us coded a little bit. So the practical comes from my favorite like witchy movie ever is Practical Magic. That was my woo awakening. And then
I just saw it on Hulu yesterday. I didn't watch it, but we were putting up our regular show on Hulu, and I was like, yes, Practical Magic. That's a good fall movie. We're almost there. We're almost there.
We can watch it now. You can watch it any day. You can watch it every day if you wanted. And then it also kind of plays on the fact that I am a Virgo rising and a Gemini moon. And then I have that Pisces sun. And I feel like those add that like balance for the Delulu dreamy Pisces energy that I need checked.
Okay, that's when we're going to bring the cards in that have come up for your present, because you did just fully describe. I like to wait for the guest to give the description. You have not seen the cards that are in front of me. We're in separate rooms. But bringing the balance to the Delulu, dreamy, wandering Pisces, we have got here the Two of Pentacles, bringing that practical balance, groundedness, 1 foot on the earth, maybe 1 foot in the ether. And we have that paired with the Hermit. Which also is actually connected to the sign of Virgo. But it's giving us that really, I just made a reel about this on Instagram. It's connecting us to that really like divine and mystic aspect of Virgo. Like the archetype of Virgo as the Virgin is one who is unto themselves. It's not the 2025 definition of virgin that we use today that really only relates to sexuality. This, when we're talking about the archetype of Virgo, it's a much more ancient definition of this concept, which is just a woman who is unto herself. She's unowned by anyone else. And oftentimes this can show up as the priestess in the temple, where you've dedicated yourself to the goddess instead of a husband or a father or children. And so there's this real divine aspect in the hermit. And the hermit is also, I have so many connections to make with this. The hermit is like deep in the woods, like in deep meditation. The hermit is very much grounded, like that Two of Pentacles, like that practical aspect, that earthy Virgo, but it's deeply grounded so that they have the tether to earth while they explore the metaphysical, the esoteric. And so the hermit is the number 9. We mentioned this before we even started recording, that we are in a 9 year, we're in a hermit year. The other card in the major arcana that connects to the number 9 is the moon. The moon is the card that is associated with Pisces, and it is that deep realm. It's the realm that the Virgo goes into, the hermit goes into, to gain that esoteric knowledge and bring it back. So I'd say you're dead on, Practical Pisces. Virgo Pisces axis.
And you're talking to me at the perfect time, because we have this like eclipse season that's like showing that polarity of Pisces, Virgo. Girl, why does that always rock me? And I think
I can't wait to watch what this one does to you. Like, I've been over here freaking out about myself, and then I'm like, oh my God, my Virgo Pisces friend.
You should worry for me.
I am. So for the listeners, I'm excited for you. For the listeners, we're recording this. Excited. Yes. We're recording this on August 31st. It's in the morning. So tomorrow is September 1st. Saturn's going to move back into Pisces tomorrow, which is the final little pass of our Saturn return. For those of us who have Saturn in Pisces, Chelsey and I are there on that boat. Right? Correct? Chelsey, you have Saturn in Pisces?
Actually, my Saturn is, I believe it's in Aries, actually.
Oh, are you a babe?
I am a babe.
Are you a little bit younger? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yeah, so you would be in Saturn in Aries. Okay, so I'm concerned about myself for the final pass of Saturn in Pisces and the rest of my late millennial crew. But these eclipses are going to start happening, I believe, September 8th. We have, or maybe it's 7th or 8th, around that time. It'll be applicable both days. We have a full moon. And I believe this episode will have come out shortly after that. But we will have a full moon that will be a lunar eclipse. And then at the end of September, we're going to have a new moon that's going to be a Virgo solar eclipse.
I don't know why that's the one that makes me nervous.
Because Virgo's going to be the cat that's going to smack you back into place.
I feel like the duality of like the Pisces Virgo energy of like the Pisces dreams it and the Virgo gets it done.
Yes.
So we're being invited to dream, and then Virgo's like, are you going to do it? Are you going to actually do it? Like, wait, I just wanted to dream. It's that easy.
So you're Virgo rising. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is the Gemini was the moon. Okay. Mm-hmm. Pisces sun, Virgo rising. Yeah. So all my Virgo or Pisces risings out there, this eclipse season is happening in your 1st and 7th house, which is big news. Big news. These will be some of the most impactful eclipses for you, in a good chunk of time, in years worth of time. This year, 2026, September, and then we're moving into next year, we'll have more eclipses. Like, this is a major time of evolution. This is a major time of jumping on the rocket, as Rose and I like to refer to eclipse season, is like getting on a rocket and seeing where it takes us.
I don't know why I keep wincing. Like, I have this intuitive knowledge that it just feels like it's like, I know it's going to result in so many good things. Like, I know that. I know it in my core. But I also know it is going to be blood, sweat, and tears. I feel it now.
Yeah.
I'm sweating about it now.
That's really fair. That's really reasonable. I do believe we have had one Virgo eclipse already. So we'll take a look back at when that happened. And and see kind of
Yeah,
what was
I
going on in
actually
life
know
for
what
you then.
happened.
You know what
Actually,
happened?
I
Oh, you
know what
do.
happened. Oh, I do. Can't wait to
Uh,
unpack it.
See, even the mystics and the intuitives, like we get a little nervous when things are coming up, even when we know it's going to be for the best.
Can I
It's
be
still,
honest?
yeah,
As the mystics, I think it punches us in the teeth harder than anybody
yeah.
because we're the educators. So it's like we get dragged through the broken glass and we're like, hey, everybody, I'll lay a towel down for you here. It still hurts, but you can walk across.
I've been through this one. Let me come back to like guide
Yeah.
you through it. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And so you refer to you in talking and prep for this episode, you talked about an education component. You just referred to the mystics were the educators. So what kind of educating or what realm are you working in? What are you helping to teach those who come to you for information and education?
So, over the last several years in my career, I have taught a class called Opening the Door to Intuition and Spirit. It's something that I have done as an 8-week program, and I bring in a few people and we sit together and evolve through all of your clairs. We spend the entire course working on connecting with you with your spirit guide and connecting with others in class to practice your own psychic mediumship. And I move every student through different modalities like spirit art, like channeled writing, playing with cards, educating on all these different tools because we all have a different channel and different senses and different experiences are easier for some. And it's really, as a Pisces, I just want you to find your flow. I want you to step into your empowered state. I would say too, I was saying this to a friend. I was like, the type of people that choose a class like this or choose this type of education aren't always like, hey, I'm going to be the next tarot reader. Hey, I'm going to be the next psychic medium. Like I have had real estate agents. I've had lawyers in this class. I've had astrologers in this class. I've had death doulas in my class. I've had hairstylists in my class, lash techs in my class. Like the people that are accessing this level of intuition, why do we need someone who touches hundreds of lives to be connected with spirit? All of those people that walk through my door, they see hundreds of people on a regular basis. And spirit is bringing them into intuitive education because spirit wants to spark the light of more souls to just know they have the ability to connect. It's just that simple. And that spirit wants to walk beside us and show us those synchronicities and show us those angel numbers and show us those signs. So, one, we know we're not alone. One, we're always reminded we're loved and that we're able to connect with our own loved ones. Like, I hope, and this is maybe like some people would say this is a crazy hope. I hope there's not a need for psychic mediums one day because we're all so connected to spirit that we don't have to rely on a conduit. That would be my dream, to be honest.
I think that that's a really beautiful dream. I think that that makes a lot of sense. A lot of what I got into last year with my tarot work was teaching people how to read the cards for themselves as well, because you don't need to be running to an Etsy witch or a TikTok tarot reader every time you have a little question. I see the importance of having a what's the word? An impartial channel, an
Yeah.
impartial person. Like I need that a lot. As I've gone deeper and deeper into my practice, I've actually found it harder and harder to read for myself.
Girl, that's so real. That is it. It's
But
just it's hard to remove what you desire
mhm,
and like what outcome you want. Like, let me just say, thank God my plan for what I thought my life should look like have not come to fruition.
mm,
Thank God.
mhm. And that's what
And
eclipse seasons are for. That's what eclipse seasons are for. And that's why you don't manifest during an eclipse season, because eclipse season is not for you to get what you want. Eclipse season is for you to get what you need.
oh my gosh, it's like I feel like I've been doing this for 5 years. And I have been, let's tap in that Virgo rising. I have had my grocery list of manifestations that I have been like, please, spirit, please give me this, which because that's how spirit wants to give you things. You'd be like, I need. Like, but I feel like I've arrived at this place where I'm in full surrender. I'm like, you know what? it's going to take me where I'm going. Life is a river that just keeps pulling me through. All I have to do is float. Like, try
Okay,
not to
Pisces.
drown.
Okay, Pisces. Oh my gosh. So you mentioned in your program, Opening the Door to Intuition, that you lead people through all of the clairs. And can
Practical.
you explain what those are? What's a clair? What does that
Yes.
mean?
So your clairs are all of your normal senses in a heightened spiritual state. So when we talk about connecting with spirit, like I wanted to share my perspective because it wasn't something I was ever taught. It's just the way that I see it. We are connected to our loved ones in spirit by a cord of love that sustains through life and death. And so when I have someone come in for a session, all I'm tuning into is like, okay, I'm going to enter into their love frequency. And I'm going to go looking for that loved one from that frequency. Kind of like I'm almost pulling on the phone cord of that person. Now, the way that I then experience spirit from that place is I might hear them with my clairaudience. I might smell them with my clairalien. I might taste them with my clairgustance. And I've got a really good example for that one. Or I might see them with my clairvoyance, or I might just know with my claircognizance. So it's all these different things that we use every day. But when we're tuning into energy, it can show up so differently. I'm going to give a really funny story. So certain senses, like you mostly use your clairvoyance. It's your clear seeing. Like we mostly use that, or our clairaudience or clear hearing. Those are like the two main ones. So when I get one that's like one of my, like my clairalien, that one is always like so confusing because I can't negate it until I talk about it. So I had this client come in for an in-person session like several years ago, and the spirit of her father shows up. And oh my God, I get the smell of like bad breath, gingivitis, bad. And I am like, how do I bring this up? How do I say this
No.
within my integrity? Right. And so I'm looking at this woman, I'm watching her mouth while she talks to see if it's her breath, just to be sure, because I'm like, okay, maybe it's not a relevant piece. And no, I'm smelling it even when her mouth is closed. So I'm like, okay, this is the spirit. How do I bring this up? Like, hey, your dad had bad breath. Like, is that where we're going to start? Like, so I sat with it. I asked the spirit, I'm like, thank you for showing me that. Can you tell me how to talk about it? And he said, dental health. And I said, okay. I was like, I can work with that. So I say to her, your father is mentioning to me the importance of dental health. And her jaw drops and she goes, oh, he was a dentist. And I was like, oh, he probably smelled that smell every day for decades. That makes perfect sense. And so, but again, it's one of those senses that, yes, it's very subtle. And like, you have to kind of dance between integrity and like, how do I bring this forward? Like one
That's
time
funny.
I'm not funny. I had one time where there was the grandpa who used to chew on cinnamon toothpicks and I kept tasting cinnamon. And I was like, I don't know why I keep tasting cinnamon. She goes, you like those terrible cinnamon toothpicks. And I was just like, that's a weird one.
Classic, very classic grandpa. Wow. Well, I'm so fascinated in the way that the cards that have come up for your present here that we talked about, the Two of Pentacles and the Hermit are. So we talked about that, of course, great connection to the mysticism of the Hermit, but they're also both so grounded and so like rooted in the earth and in the material. And the way that you are experiencing your channeling and your mediumship is through all of the senses. Like it's a full bodily experience for you.
Yes. And it has been all my life, which is something that has been beautiful to evolve through. But I've always been the person who's like really overly sensitive. Really, I grew up hearing you're so dramatic. And I'm like, I just feel things that deeply.
There's a Florence and the Machine song that I always connect it to my Aries moon because with the moon, we're talking about our sensitivities. Aries is very strong. I also feel things very intensely. Um, and so I connect this song to that placement for myself. But gosh, what is the line? Because it's all in my head. You're too sensitive, they said. I said, okay, but let's discuss this at the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
okay.
yeah.
Sure, I'm sensitive, but can we do something about it?
Because sometimes it'll be like, not everybody has the capacity around you to like contain that. And so it's like, I almost like try to explain, like, it doesn't go anywhere though. The emotions are still there, friend. Like, I've learned at
I
this
can't
point in
just
my
make them
life,
go
I have to
away.
just, I will literally tell people I had to cry beforehand because I knew I needed to get it out before I made it to the event.
Yes. Yeah.
Just
Or
like
it was gonna
everybody else
happen
could be
there.
comfortable. I just did it in. I penciled it in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So how have these sensitivities shown up in your life? How did you get to the point where you're now a practicing professional medium? I think kind of what we were just talking about there hinted at this maybe not being the easiest journey to get here.
Oh, God, no. I may be 28 years old, but I feel like I've lived the lifetime of someone twice my age. I would say, gosh, my life has been woven with death, grief, and loss. I lit my first home ever. So this is a fun, like, we'll just start from here. We'll go to the next place. I grew up in a town called Grass Valley in California. And this town is in Northern California. Growing up, it was a very small town in the pine trees and the mountains, which very hermit energy, if we could just see a parallel. And my first home I remember living in was a mining hotel that had burned down 100 years before we lived in it. And I was having vivid nightmares at a very young age. And I remember telling my mom of these nightmares, and I would describe to her, I will just say some of these, doesn't matter how adult and grown past it I am, still like linger a certain way. But I would remember these nightmares, and I told her I just heard banging on the walls and screaming and hands covered in black. But it was the dirt and the soot from mining all day and all the miners that died in that space. And I remember we had a bathroom on the main floor in my sister's room. And I remember telling my mom, I don't want to take a bath in there. There's always that miner in there. And she was just like, there's not a miner in the bathtub. I'm like, yes, I get in the bath. The water might look white to you, but to me, it is black. And there's a gross man in there. And so at what point, from what I've been told, and again, this is like decades ago, but from what I was told, my mom brought in someone from the church to like bless our house. And she said, now there's no problem. But guess what? I still kept seeing things. I just stopped talking about it because I was like, I'm just making everybody really uncomfortable. And so I'm going to button that away. And then I would say my next like lived experience with connecting with spirit was when I had a friend when I was 12 years old who passed away in a hunting accident. And then I had new nightmares where I was having nightmares of my friend in his final moments every night before I went to sleep. And I would try to talk about that. And it just was something where it wasn't ever going away until I want to say like at least a few years later, did they eventually dissipate. And then I kind of fast forward to like the first message I ever remember receiving. And it wasn't from one of my loved ones. It wasn't from like a pet. Like my first ever message came from an angel. And I remember, if you don't mind, I'm going to just like preface, like there's a little backstory to this one, and it does involve domestic violence. And it is something I would love to share if you're comfortable holding that space.
Absolutely. I'm here for it. And that's a good note to listeners that you can decide if you are open to listening.
And I just want to say I appreciate you for sitting with me in this. You are sending love to a little girl who was so brave, and you just taking this moment of pause and honoring is not only honoring me, but every woman who's walked through this path. So the first time I ever received a message, it speaks to the whole dynamic of the relationship I was in. And I think any woman who has, or anyone for that matter, who has left an abuser always remembers what I always call the last day. The last day I said, I can no longer. And this last day really describes the level of intensity that it had gotten. It was my first love relationship. I was 15 or 16. I was living in a state of poverty. You know, my family of five was on food stamps. I was already working at a young age to help support my family. My little brother was like just a baby, and I was helping take care of him alongside my mom, who was working three jobs. And I had an alcoholic father who wasn't very present, still trying to go to high school, and also just like wanting to find love through all of that heaviness and feeling unsupported. I wanted to connect with someone. And I think from that place of a desperation, like so many of us can attract a partner who is looking for someone in a desperate place. Doesn't matter how old you are. And so I met this, right? She's like, that hit. And so I connected with this partner, and initially it was emotionally abusive. He was being abused at home by his father. And so then he was then expressing that and taking that out on me. And I will fast forward to the last day. It started with my morning weigh-in because I was supposed to meet the goal weight that he wanted for me, which was like 135. It was a
Oh my
discussion that we had. Oh
God.
yeah, girl. And that, you know, then I had to track my food with him on my phone. I had to be under 1,000 calories every day.
Oh my
And
God.
I remember getting into a huge fight with him after the lunch I made for both of us. And he was like, no, you're eating more than you are putting on your app. And I just remember being like, are we serious? Like, it was all starting to like become so evident, like step by step that day. And I remember going upstairs, and we got in like this argument. I don't even remember the words. And like something with trauma is like certain moments, like you just see flashes of the memory. So even after years of therapy, all I remember is my head hitting the wall behind me for this argument, and a frame of a picture hitting the ground and broken glass. And I remember going into the bathroom and like touching my head and being like, is there any blood? And then he like came to me and said, you and I are going to go for a run so you can burn off all those calories. Now, something that was problematic at that time was I had actually had so much cortisol overload and so much stress, and I was underweight that I was actually on home hospital, and I was on homeschool, and I couldn't actually even participate in PE. I was going to cardiologist appointments because I'd been fainting so much because I was so underweight, and the cortisol and the stress was like becoming more and more. In fact, the day before the last day, I fainted at my job, and my boss carried me out of the restaurant and put me in
Oh,
my car for me.
oh my gosh.
And then I'm being told by this guy that now I need to go run. And I'm like already like pale and just depleted. And I'm like, to go run now? And I go on this path by his house, and we're running on the path. And he's like saying how slow I am and how I can't keep up and how I'm not taking care of myself enough. And he like runs ahead of me, and then he runs back to me and says more shit, and runs ahead of me and runs back. And at one point, I just remember my ears started ringing, and all I saw was white light. And I just remember falling. And I'm looking up through all of these pine trees and oak trees, and it's like the whole world went silent. And I'm just surrounded in white light. And like I have chills from head to toe. And it was the first breath of peace I'd taken in what felt like years or all my life. And I look up, and it's like I'm watching this cloud like turn into just feathers and wings. And I see this eye, and it literally looks like the earth, but in this like eye, and it's looking down on me. And I just hear this voice say, this is not love. This is not kindness. This is not love. This is not kindness. And I just started sobbing and holding my heart. And I just said, oh my gosh, I'm so deserving of so much more love than this. And I just remember I picked myself up, and I just started running like I'd never run before. And I get in my car, and I'm calling my mom, and I'm like, I'm on my way home. I need the door unlocked. I'm on my way home. And all I remember was from there, it was like a 25-minute drive, but I don't remember anything. And I just get home, and I fall into her arms, and I just say, I don't know what I've gotten myself into, Mom. And I start to tell her everything, and it's just like her face falls. And I was the kid that was nothing to worry about. I was the kid that was working and getting good grades and doing it all right. And I just fell into her arms and said, I'm so scared for my life right now. And she starts to see the messages he's sending me flooding my phone. And it's all volatile and just evil darkness. And she goes, okay, we're going to call him. And I'm like, okay. And I get on the phone with him. He just starts yelling, where did you go? Why did you run? Da, 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 da. And I just remember saying, it's done. This is not love. This is not kindness. And I don't deserve it. And then I hung up, and my mom took my phone and she turned it off. And she said, okay, we're all going to pile into a big bed together. We're all going to sit together, and we're all just going to not worry about this. We're going to put on a movie, and we're just going to regroup, and we're going to talk about maybe more of a plan tomorrow. And that night he came to my door. He left me a letter, and then I didn't respond to the letter. And then the next day he came to my door and screamed in my window and said, I'm going to kill your whole family. And I'm like, oh, whoa, okay. So we're escalating. And I said to my mom, I think the safest thing for everyone is if I leave. And she said, I think a fresh start and a new place and a new chapter would be really good for you. And I packed up all my things and I moved to Southern California in Santa Barbara, 8 hours away, and stayed with some relatives, and I started over. And here I am 10
Wow.
years later from the biggest shift of my life that was activated by an angel, which I painted this week in honor to show what
Oh,
I saw. And I wanted to show y'all because I finally finished it. But this is the angel that I saw on the day that saved my life.
wow. That is beautiful.
And what I
Wow.
find beautiful is I was never someone who was like educated in like the woo field or
Yeah.
anything like that. Like it found me. And so then later when I was researching angels and was like, the fuck did I see when I was in the woods?
No
I
one
was
was
trying
talking
to
about biblically accurate angels
know.
10 years ago. And for those so this episode absolutely will be on YouTube, so you can see the visual of that artwork, and maybe we'll share it on the Instagram as
Yeah.
well if that sounds good. So what Chelsea showed was this beautiful blue sky, some nice clouds in the sky, and in the center there's this like eye that's then surrounded, has like 8 like wings. It's also giving a little bit like flame, kind of like coming out off of the center like a big wheel.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it felt like when you see like white light is all color at once. So the other thing I noticed is in that white light, I would see ripples of color. Now, something I would say even now in my work, when I'm seeing the energy of spirit, I'm noticing a shift in the auric field and the color. It's like the most fluorescent thing. It's very, very subtle, but it's this ever slight shift and glimmer and change in the light. And that's what I'm tuning into because light is frequency. And so we can tune into light and get information from it if we know how to tune into it.
Wow.
I was like, did I have
So
another point there?
did you have another point there? I'm you know, backing up. So this incredible angel came to you and kind of helped give you this moment of clarity in a very dark, destructive, and like vampiric is a word that I want to use, like not literally, but like to give the sense of so much energy being like sucked and drained away from you by this partner that was clearly not well, and also
Yeah.
then causing you to be not well.
I do think it speaks to people that are such these bright light. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm a bright light. It takes me a long
Mm-hmm.
time to realize it, but I know I am. And I know that light can attract a lot of darkness too. And it can attract a lot of people who just want to, I don't want to say, I saw this quote once that always spoke to me. And it was like, every person I loved, maybe they didn't give me the love I deserved, but I know they were deserving of the love that I gave. I know that person may have hurt me, but I know that person was going through an awful, and I almost want to say probably a worse experience what I was experiencing. I know what I experienced was awful, but I know that I wasn't taking the blows that he was. And I know I don't want that to minimize my own experience, but I just wanted to honor the fact that I wanted to pour love into the cup of someone who was suffering.
Yeah.
I just did not deserve any suffering in exchange.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, that's something that is so real in so many contexts of that bright light person absolutely attracting some very intense darkness. And we talked about that in the episode with Jacqueline Francis that I did. Jack was a stripper for many, many years. That's something that her and I share together. And so many people who engage in that work are these like incredibly bright, sparkly souls. You meet so many like intensely psychic people in the adult industry. And some of them are handling that well, and some of them are not. But there's lots and lots of sparkly people there, and it does then attract some very, very dark, dirty, scary energy. And so learning that balance and learning how to protect yourself as a sparkly person is deeply, deeply important.
I remember once my mentor, Jesse Morgan, who's been a psychic medium for decades and decades and decades. And I remember once he told me, do you understand why you meet the devil first before you ever meet God? And I was like, no, Jesse, why? He was like, because you first meet your greatest fear before you find your brightest light. And this person, this energy I attracted was also the voice of every fear that I had before he ever arrived. He was the voice of every insecurity that was already there. He was the echo of a culture that we live in that speaks to that very same thing. He's the product of his environment, and an environment there's a lot of out there. And so when I have to honor the fact that like we are each other's mirrors, and he was showing me I was also not in the best place. I was also not being taken care of the way I needed to. I was also in like a low financial status as well. Like we had connections for a reason. And, I'd like to just touch on where I finally had that moment of like, I'm so glad that happened to me, but I understand why that lesson crossed my path. My first ever client, when I started doing readings, is now one of my like lifelong friends. And I remember she came to me and I did her first reading. And you'll know this as a reader. There are certain messages people are not ready to hear. You're like, we can't cover that class. We can't cover that day one.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
And I saw the Tower. I saw the Seven of Swords. I saw the Two of Cups in reverse. I saw the Two of Pentacles in reverse. I saw the Six of Cups in reverse. I was like, oh my God. I saw the Devil. I was like, so our relationship, just to clarify, yes, I've been married. I'm like, oh. And when I tapped into the energy of her partner at the time, they were showing me my ex. They were showing me my abusive partner. And they were showing me all of these moments of emotional abuse. And I was like, in that moment, as I'm tuning into her experience, I'm also reliving mine.
Yeah.
And they're trying to show me the comparisons and the similarity. And I'm seeing where, okay, this is someone who is in a vulnerable state. This is someone who is not in a safe state. We're not in a safe space. This is someone who needs someone to ask her some questions. Because when I reflect on my experience, I think to myself, I just wish people were asking me more questions. I just wish someone would have shown me, oh gosh, I didn't think it was physical abuse because I wasn't being punched, but being held down by my wrists and told I'll never be stronger than you, and waiting until he sees fear in my eye or pushing me down. So I feel small and saying, how do you like that? And I'm like, it's not abuse because he's not hitting me. And so I feel like it's so important to share these stories and these experiences because I didn't clock it. I didn't see it because I never saw it anywhere else. And so, and this child, I'm 16, 17, 18. I'm sorry, if your frontal lobe isn't fully developed, like you might miss a few things. And so I look at this young part of myself and say like, well, you didn't have any examples of what you're going through. And you're confusing abuse with play. Oh, he's just being so silly. Not silly, my lady.
Yeah.
I remember going to therapy and being like, well, it's not abuse. And she's like, did you like how you were touched? And I was like, no. And she was like, then it's abuse. I was like, oh, I had no idea. And so anybody who's listening, if someone is touching you in a way that makes you feel unsafe or makes you so afraid that you can't say something, maybe that's not your person.
Yeah.
Just to put
Yeah.
that out there. But I'm
And
sitting with this. Oh, go ahead.
well, yeah, I'm kind of, I think, getting to the same point you were getting to, of like sitting with these clients, and you can't outright tell them. You can't tell them anything.
That's not
And
trauma informed to
it's
just.
not, no. And there's such a massive need for anyone doing this work to be well trained and trauma informed, whatever you're doing. And I think that's a lot of what it has ended up getting talked about on this show when I work with folks who are especially professionals in the space, is how important it is to vet your practitioner and for your practitioner to have skills beyond channeling, beyond reading, beyond just seeing the message and the information. We also have to know how to handle these types of situations, how to deliver messages in a way that's meeting the person where they're at, and also knowing how and when to refer, or to just be really aware that people are in vulnerable states oftentimes when they come to us.
I think it's like if you're a reader who is going to meet people with a lot of depth, you also need to have a list of licensed counselors who are understanding of the woo world. I have a referral list locked and
Mm-hmm.
loaded. And so in these moments, I'm like connecting with someone who I know is going to therapy, who is starting to come to awareness, who needs someone that she can build some trust with first. And I'm so able and willing to meet this person where she's at and know, like, this first session, we're really going to focus on her and what she wants in life. And I'm going to suggest to reconnect in a month after those concepts is integrated and that we've built trust. And on that second session, I intended to meet with her in person. I said, hey, I know you paid for an hour, but I'd like to give you 90 minutes because there are some things I want to cover and I really want to take my time to do. So are you comfortable with that? She said yes. And I met with her in person in a one-on-one space where she felt safe. And I started with the reading of, do you trust me to be totally honest with you? And she said yes. And I said, all right, sis, we're going all in. And we dove into that reading and I touched on everything. And probably within like 2 or 3 months, she was leaving this partner. But in the same way, I hold, and every reader should, you can activate someone, yes, into confirming their truth, but also bringing something into their awareness that can change their whole life. And there's not a lot of readers that are going to say to somebody, hey, I know I'm bringing this idea to your awareness. You don't have to act on it today. You don't have to even act on it next week. If you need to take a year and sit with it, then you take that time and you sit with it. Because some people be like, you need to go tomorrow. Like there's a sense of urgency that people bring into life transitions. And gosh, we're a world that needs more patience. And gosh, if someone could have just paused a little bit longer with me in certain moments and let me have space to express, like, would things have been different? I don't know. But now I see what I walked through and the fire that burned my feet. And I want to be a lot more gentle with those that come in contact with me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to pull in the cards that we've pulled for the past here, and then I have so many more questions for you. When in listing off kind of the cards that you were using as examples for talking about this client, the cards that came up, you mentioned the two of cups reversed, and so we've got that coming up. The two of cups coming up in a reverse position here. Is a little hard to tell with this deck, but the numbers are usually at the bottom. So that two of cups reversed of that partnership that was not equal, that was not balanced, that was not pouring into your cup in an effective way. And then I'm imagining, I'm gathering that because we still have a little bit of a gap to fill in of leaving this intensely abusive relationship that also kind of gave you this first experience of directly connecting with the angels and then getting to, professional psychic medium. So I imagine that time that there was a lot of soul searching. There was a lot of having to learn how to listen, learning how to go within, learning how to actually receive those messages. Because then we have the Four of Swords coming up as the other card in the past. And to me, the Four of Swords represents this like incubation stillness point where we kind of let our mind really clear in order to kind of get to the next stage of receiving more messaging. Is that kind of what started to happen at this point in the story?
At this point, I'm now living in Santa Barbara, and I'm trying to sorry, I have to like channel this part. And typically I get my clairaudient through my right ear. And so had to go, okay, wait, hold on. I can't even hear the message. So at this point, I'm living in Santa Barbara. I'm like working 3 jobs. I'm going to Santa Barbara City College, and I'm really just trying to move past all those health concerns that were coming up. And my next part of my spiritual awakening was trying to heal my body and just trying to find like, what's a regulated nervous system? I'm like getting testing done. I'm getting blood work done. I'm like following this naturopathic path. I'm trying to find supplements because not only am I underweight, but also my hormone levels are fucked. Like I have a confusing appetite now. I'm like not quite sure how to eat yet. My digestion was off. Like my whole system was shot. And I was like weekly going and getting these different like tests and things done. And they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. At one point I went to a cardiologist and they were like, if she can't get her heart problem in order, like this might look like a pacemaker on an 18-year-old.
Oh my God.
And so I'm looking at my mom from across the room and I'm like, am I going to have a thing in my chest now? And like, if I don't get this in order, like this is going to affect my whole life. At that point, I had fainted so many times that were documented. They had suspended my driver's license. Like there were so many things where I was like hitting all these limitations. And it was like, if I don't get my health in order now, and it's so sad to be that young and being like, oh my God, like if I don't sort this out, like I wasn't sure if I was going to live. Like I was like, am I going to be able to like live, work, and breathe? And like get like I can't even work at certain points. Like so it was like I was trying to work 3 jobs and then I was still not doing well. And like I kept going from like having it and then like it was like feast or famine with my health. It was this push and pull. And I'll be honest, like my healing space ended up being yoga because it was the first place that like one, I was in community where I was surrounded with people in a room of people that were coming to the space to just soften. And moving my body and being surrounded in a community was one of the first places I ever felt like I could calm. And my cortisol level started to go down. When I started doing my daily walks, things started to go down. When I started to, I would also say though, it was a really long time before I had stopped having a bad relationship with food. Like I feel like that just took a really long time for me to find that place. But once I felt like my nervous system was finally getting to a regulated place was when like, then I felt like that next spiritual awakening came back around. And in go ahead.
I think that's a perfect description for the Four of Swords is this need to regulate the nervous system or the process of regulating the nervous system, of getting the frenetic energy to calm and to be able to find peace and stillness within, I think is a fantastic description there. And the practice that like, it's not surprising that yoga is something that we use that as like a derogatory of like, oh, they just told me to do yoga. And it's like, well, it's not the process of like going through these movements, but it's like the act of dedicating time to stillness and quiet and connecting with the body and connecting with like getting that mind-body connection in order that really truly can be revolutionary for some people. That's also going through a similar journey. That was one of the things that I latched onto early on, was finding some dedicated time to just have some kind of mindfulness practice. And yoga just happens to be a really accessible version in 2025 and, prior in the last decade.
And it's something that like yoga has like always followed with me. And and I think it comes from the place of like, I also tried to do kickboxing and I was like, gee, like I'm paying to get punched. And I think that's really empowering for some, but I just don't have that like I don't have that drive like that. Like I'm not
You don't have
an
enough
aggressive.
Aries in your chart. That's
No, I
actually
have.
something that I think would work well for me, but maybe
I love
not.
it.
Maybe not for the practical Pisces.
The practical Pisces, like I need some gentle flow. I'm a tender flower. I need a gentle flow. Okay. But then I would say I started doing yoga and I was really encouraged by one of my sister's best friends, Carly. And Carly was just, I mean, she loved to go out. She loved yoga. She loved plants. She got me into plants. Like she was just such a bright light. And her and my sister were like thick as thieves. And then she went on a birthday trip to Thailand. And she went and saw the elephants and had just the most magical trip. And then she was hit by a car on her moped and died in Thailand.
Oh my God.
And my sister and I were up all night trying to figure out what happened or what was going on, if she had passed or she hadn't, or anything that we could hear. And then we found out that she was gone. And it was on January 11th. And the next day, we all got together. And I remember driving home. And it was one of the most powerful spiritual experiences of my life. It's Southern California. It's not rain there. It started to bomb rain on the 101 freeway between Santa Barbara and Ventura. And as I'm driving through this rain, Sarah and I are just crying. And all of a sudden, this hole like opens up in the clouds. And these two rainbows come down on the freeway. And I'm covered in chills again. And I reached for my sister's hand and I said, she just wants you to know she's here for you. She's there for you. She's here for you. She's there for you. And she's like, I can't hear it right now. And I'm like, she just thinks you, but she's here for you. She's there for you. And there was something about it where we kind of started to laugh while we cried. And then the rain stopped, but the rainbow still like surrounded the freeway. And we're driving beside the ocean, surrounded in clouds and like rainbows. And it's just this like magnetic moment where I just felt like I just remember thinking like I couldn't even fight the words. Mm-hmm. And soon after that, or within that same time period, my great grandmother passed. And it was like, I can't remember if it was before or after or somewhere in between, but I get the call from my mom like the day before. Chelsey, I know you're working a double shift tomorrow. Are you able to come see Gigi? It may be her last day. And my dumbass, sorry, I'm going to say it forever, but my dumbass said, no, I need to work. And she's not even going to remember if I'm there anyway. I regret that to this day. But her and I stay connected in spirit all the time.
Not like it was the last time you'd get to talk to her.
No, that bitch is in my, she sits with me every day when I'm putting on my makeup and is like, why do you always avoid putting on a good lip? You got good lips. Wear that lipstick, honey. Like every morning, I'm like, all right, I'm going to work on
Gigi,
that.
I hear you.
Thank you, Gigi, Ma. Like, I appreciate you. But I remember getting the call the next day from my mom saying, and she's gone. And it was just like this moment. It was night and I was driving home from work and I was getting a good cry going. Like I was bawling and I was probably crying so hard I shouldn't have been driving. And I had the windows down, same thing on that 101 freeway. And I watched as this pink cloud of mist like floated through my car. And I smelled her perfume, White Shoulders. And my left hand on the steering wheel, I felt her hand come over mine. And the song started playing. And I don't remember the artist. It's not even a song that she knew. It just came on and the song was saying, I'm not supposed to love you, but I do. I'm not supposed to love you, but I do. It's all just too much. Now, backstory on my grandma is there's kind of like family drama around her where like she kind of just said her piece and not everybody loved that. So like there was kind of some like, why do you like her? And I was like, because she serves cunt better than anybody. And like she walked so I could run.
Mean grandma.
Like she was so sweet. She's just very like particular and stern. I think she was an Aquarius actually, but I need to look at that. But I just felt her saying, one, you're crying too much. And two, I know that the love that we have for each other, like didn't always make sense for everybody else, but like, I always loved you. And I remember getting home that night and just knowing like she had touched me. And then all of a sudden I'm having this like, okay, wait a minute. Did I just have two people touch me? all of a sudden it like came crashing into my reality that I was like, am I talking to dead people? And like, I started to kind of spiral out. And I had a friend at the time who I was trying to talk to about it. And she was like tarot cards. And she like handed me my first deck and she was like, let's just see if this helps you get this out. Cause it felt like there was just all this energy and I just didn't know how to move it. And I'm having all these experiences and then it just was so much all at once. It was like once the channel was open, it was just all this information is coming to me all at once. I started using the cards and I remember doing this reading and being like, I didn't even know what they said. I just, and then I was like, what do you think? And she was like, Jesus Christ, you're really good at this. And I was like, okay. So I kind of just kept playing with them a little bit every day. Like I never watched a single educational video. Like I never even like really even read the book ever. I didn't study it formally. It was just like it was handed to me and then I was using it and it just like all clicked. Mm-hmm. And then I remember like right around that same time, I went to this new restaurant in town in Ventura that used to be an old bank. Which cool. Then I went and had dinner and as I'm walking home, I'm hearing in my ear this man saying, all I ever did was clock in and out of that bank and I didn't even find love and all I did was work hard and die. What a waste. And I was like, what? And I remember walking home and telling my sister who I lived with, I was like, there's someone with me that I don't know. And she was like, what do you mean? And she like at the time she was terrified of ghosts. And so like the fact that this was happening, she was like almost pissed at me. She was like, you're bringing stuff home? So wait a minute, you're going to do this? And then you're going to bring things home? Are you serious? And so I'm like, I don't know how to get rid of it. And she was like, I don't know how to get rid of it. And so then we're like saging my house and I'm like praying and I'm like, I hope it goes away. And then it was like, it wasn't until like a week or two later where I just said, listen, buddy, you can't walk this life with me. Move forward and leave me alone. And then he did. And I was like, oh, I just needed to tell him directly to leave. Oh.
Easy enough. There we go.
Easy enough. After that. Why did I think communicate? So at that moment, it was like all of these experiences were flooding me. And then 2020 hits and the world shuts down. And all these things are turning and changing. I ended a relationship. And then my dog passed away. And I'm like, gosh, I can't even work because I'm in the food industry. Like, what am I going to do? And I had a friend that was like, move to Kentucky and just like try something different for a while. And oh my God, then I went and I started my spiritual career and I started doing readings. And Louisville, Kentucky ended up being like such a spiritual hub of like bluegrass witches. And it just ended up being this time where I did so many different events. I did like a haunted mansion event where like I did tarot readings on Halloween in a haunted mansion that was over 150 years old. I like did a brewery. I worked weddings. I did pop-up events every weekend. Like I ran the gamut of every different kind of way that you can pull cards. And though I still felt like I was pulling tarot, but I was still not wanting to tap into mediumship. I was still dragging my toes because it just felt like I was so worried about judgment. I was so worried about being told that I wasn't standing in my truth or that I was faking it or that, none of it was real, because I think the hardest part is, am I just deluded? Is this real? But when you can fact check it, is it deluded? When it's dead on, is it deluded? And so I kept showing up. And then I like started working at this one spiritual space and I got connected to one of my first teachers who ended up not really being the best of teachers, if I'm being honest.
Been there.
We all kind of have to walk through that. And I'm not even getting into it because I'm worth the time. But however, invitation into my mediumship and claiming my power, I got some decent exercises and made some great connections. And then I met my favorite teacher who'd been doing it for decades. And we always flowed through. I'd come in for a reading and then the reading would then become mentorship. And so I'd be pulling cards and then we'd be talking about different ways that I could use my channel. And different ways that I could do it. Now, there's so many different ways that you can do mediumship. Like, there's trance mediumship, where you basically let spirit take over your body and speak through you. Don't love that personally. I've been told I would be good at it, and I love.
You'd be incredible at it, Pisces.
Incredible at it. But I'm like,
just merge. Come on. Maybe a little too good at it.
I think it's my worry is if I like, I guess my worry here, it's fair to talk about our fears and mediumship, right? My
Yeah.
fear is not being able to exit
Yeah,
that trance.
yeah, because that's you're too Pisces. You might get stuck in the ether.
Yeah. And like, okay, here's an example. Like the other night, I'm like in bed with my partner and I'm sleeping and I'm starting to close my eyes and I say out loud, if the couple next door would stop talking so loud, I could fall asleep. And he's like, I don't hear anybody talking. And I was like, damn it, I just want to close my eyes. And then I remembered earlier that day, I had done a reading and it was a grandma and a grandpa. And they kept going back and forth. And as I was closing my eyes, I realized, oh, I didn't clear my energy. I didn't clear them out. They'd been hanging around all day until I was quiet enough to hear them going back and forth, even still. Damn it.
That's
So funny.
funny. That's funny. So then you made your way to Tucson.
And then, okay, so then I made my way to Tucson. So in Kentucky, I was in a partnership. And with this partner, we really wanted to go out west. I wanted to be closer to my family. We were both really tired of Kentucky at the time. And it was just like, it was funny because we were looking at Arizona in general. And actually, I was very hesitant about Arizona initially. I was so worried about it being hot. And I was like, I don't want to be a crispy critter and just like be so hot and miserable. Which is so funny because then we came to visit and we looked at Phoenix and I just thought to myself, like, no judgment towards Phoenix. It's like, I grew up in a small town.
All judgment towards Phoenix. Fuck Phoenix. I'm a Tucson
But
girly forever.
Tucson girly.
Although I did go to ASU Forcum.
I mean, you know, it has its people and it's just, I'm not one of them. But we spent 4 days, it was like 3 or 4 days looking at Phoenix because we thought that's where we were going to be. We had one day planned for Tucson. One. And I remember driving through Phoenix and being like, yeah, okay, sure could be a lot of LA. All right. You know, it's not sure. Okay. There's some cute spots. Fine. And then we turned on Tangerine into Tucson and it was 7 a.m. and the sun was rising. And the last gift my Gigi Ma ever gave me was a tangerine spray. And it was one of my messages. And every building I went past was like Tangerine Crossing and Tangerine Road and Tangerine this and Tangerine that. And I was just like, oh my God, she's everywhere. And then this song came on and it was talking about the color of this girl's eyes being green with just flecks of brown and mine are green with some flecks of brown. And I was just like, and I just started bawling, of course. I mean, every time I cry always. And so I'm bawling and I'm like, step home. And I'm like wiping my tears away and I'm like, where I need to be. And it was like, I didn't even need to drive around. Like I drove around Phoenix for 3 days. And okay. I literally turned on one road. I'm like, it's just it. And then
Which for those of us who like know the landscape of Tucson, like you were barely in Tucson. You were Tucsonans would probably not even consider that Tucson yet.
I was 2 steps in the door.
You had your hand on the doorknob, but you saw those mountains.
My claircognizance kicked in. I knew.
So then, yeah, you ended up here and, you know, you were running the spiritual scene back in Kentucky. So you had to find the girlies who were doing it here and you done did.
I did that within like my first week. I was like, who seems cool in town that reads tarot? Because I need woo friends. It's necessary. And so then I followed you first. And then you were like, you should follow Rose. And I was like, immediately, yeah. And I think there was a couple other people but then you and I really connected. And then it was just like from there on out. And then life took all of us through some really powerful transitions.
We all of us. And it's so funny. I'm finally, spoiler alert, anyone listening, I'm finally interviewing Rose this week. So the next episode after this one will be with Rose. And then I think we're closing out the season. I think I'm gonna take a little pause. Because
make Rose your season finale? Hell yeah.
Rose will be the season finale. And then I think it's time for all of us to jump on the roller coaster once again. Like we all three of us went through the ringer. We came out stronger on the other side. And I think I can hear the gears of that roller coaster. The car is pulling up to the station and it's like, all right, time to get back in it again.
And it feels like, you know, and just to touch on that too, I mean, something that you both told me when I moved to Tucson, you were like, Tucson pulls you through the thorns before it ever shows you the water within.
Yeah.
And boy, did it. It is not a place that keeps anybody that's not resilient. I fell into what I was told was a tooth on tail as old as time, which is where somebody in the partnership wants to move to Tucson or move to Arizona in general. And the other partner, who might have been reluctant, comes with. And the reluctant one is the one to stay while the other leaves. And my partner then shipped on back to Kentucky very recently. Well, I say that, but like 6 months ago. But still, that was during
Still pretty
the
recent.
last eclipse. Still pretty recent.
Yeah,
But like
last
that was
eclipse
6
season.
months ago in the last eclipse season. And so I was like, that's why I think I'm wincing, because I was like, oh, I had to literally rebuild yet again.
Yeah. I think the key, though, is that you did the letting go. You allowed the change to happen. Eclipse season is so tower coded. It's also very Eight of Cups coded. And it's very much like if you resist, it gets harder. It's quicksand. If you resist, it's going to suck you in further, and the whole process will be a lot more difficult. So there was a lot of big changes that happened 6 months ago for you. And I hopefully, the foundation is a little stronger for the next ones coming through.
Well, and I feel like each eclipse season has a different focus. Like 6 months ago, to me, it felt like it was me it's truth being revealed in every direction, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's the great unmasking, and it's, people may feel like it's changed, but it's actually just tuning into what's actually happening around you and asking yourself, can it continue this way? And if it can't, how can I steer the wheel back to me on my aligned?
Exactly.
And I have a sneaky suspicion for myself, if I could read myself, which I think this chapter is going to shift my career in a big way. I think last time was shifting my self-worth and my heart space and like who I trust to hold my heart and what I'm desiring being so very different in love than what I once looked for. And God's like, I think that Virgo rising yet comes in again where I thought I had the perfect little pretty picture, but it just wasn't so pretty on the inside. And in fact, like where I feel the happiest is in the messy wateriness that is Pisces. Like it just doesn't look perfect. And however, it is the happiest I've been probably all my life right now.
Incredible. And I love that for you. Congratulations.
You.
So let's look at the cards that are coming up for the future.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. So we talked about clarifying things and seeing things clearly and like having the truth be there. And there might be a few more little truth nuggets to suss out because we have the Eight of Swords. This is the Eight of Swords coming up.
I'm like,
So the Eight of Swords, and there's a lot with the Eight of Swords of like releasing ourselves from limiting beliefs or finally noticing where we're keeping ourselves tied down. And then once you like cut those strings, then it's like, the balloon. Then the balloon can fly off. Our other card we have is the Page of Cups. And in this particular description, the Page of Cups is a figure sitting in a wheelchair looking up at these balloons filled with water and little sea creatures, very Piscean, and like letting those balloons, like I'm picturing it almost as if it's like the Three of Wands of like letting those balloons like sending off the little dreams. So it feels like practically there's some more little strings to cut, some final ties to release yourself from, so that those Page of Cups dreams can like fly off and start to seed and germinate elsewhere.
Because I've definitely even, and I'll share more about this even like with you later, but even this week, I've had to really let go. Like this week especially, there's, again, like I kind of feel like my theme is, thank God the way I expected it to work out didn't. Because there's things I think and this is something I always try to dance with a little bit, is where can I be optimistic and realistic? And it's like my little dreamy self is like, oh my gosh, everything is going to be perfect. And I look at so many things that way, like the pretty little princess is just like, and then the reality comes crashing down and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is not what it seemed. And so I've noticed that this week, and there's so many different little transitions happening, and I'm just like, I know there's going to be more. And I see, though, eclipse seasons can also be such big invitations towards opportunities. I have
Yeah.
leaned towards that a little
It's
bit
great
too,
endings and it's great beginnings.
which are so necessary. I need some,
Mhm.
I guess it's, gosh, do you feel like this year has been
Ending on
one
ending
of
on
the,
ending.
uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I have some things to tell you after we're done recording as well. Oh, friend chats.
We need a debrief.
So what does your work look like now? Like what's the focus? How can people work with you if they want to work with you?
Okay, so here's where spooky season, like the second September hits, it's like always when I'm
That's
at my busiest.
that's my other note on why the podcast is probably going to take a break after Rose's episode in a couple weeks, because we are coming upon fall and a witch be busy. A witch be busy
It is
when fall arrives.
it is the time of year that I end up having to say no to so many things because I'm filling so much space.
Yep.
And so for this chapter, I really see myself expanding some of my offerings. Like I'm in September, I'm officially going to put forward pet mediumship. In September, my intention is to set date to do another round of opening the door to intuition and spirit. I just am waiting for certain foundations to set with my schedule before I unleash it. But that is something I really want to do. And I'm going to manifest this universe. I'm hoping to be able to have it like 4 or 5 people that could do in person. I would love to
Oh,
teach in an in-person
I
environment, and I'm through
love
so much
teaching in
virtually.
person.
And like I've had moments where I have gotten to, and now I'd really love to do that because I'm where I want to be finally. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I want to root in and spark a little lights, wake some people up, open their doors to the intuition, and like connect them with their loved ones. And I also see like I really see myself doing more art from the place of less commission and more creativity, because I want to do more spirit art portraits, of course, of people's loved ones and pets, and I know I'll always do that. But I am really digging into like having a couple series of work that I want to do that's like just for my heart space. Like
Mm.
something that a lot of people don't know about me is like I'm obsessed with birds. I moved to the perfect place. I'm like
You did. You've got
weirdly,
some good bird watching.
I love me some bird watching. And so I want to do a whole bird series. I've already done a Cooper's hawk and a quail. And I did a Cooper's hawk because I was attacked by a Cooper's hawk, and I was like, I should.
Okay, fine.
Nature is metal here in Tucson, folks. Like,
Yeah.
that thing came for my bangs for
Yep.
nesting material.
Mhm.
I could have been scalped. Like, what? By a Cooper's hawk. But I would say, like, on a bigger level, what I'm really wanting to do is what I've already been doing, which is just to connect and support
Mhm.
and be a part of sparking lights and healing.
And help people see their own limitations. Like this I'm picking up the 8 of Swords again. I don't know if I called it 7 earlier. It's the 8 of Swords. I'm picking up the 8 of Swords once again and thinking about how so much of your work is also helping people release themselves from their own limiting beliefs. So many people think that they're not psychic, that you have to be a certain person, you have to be a psychic. And then we opened this with the very true statement of psychic skills are psychic senses are just human senses. Like we do all have them. And some of your job in helping people open the door is to help them recognize and release those limiting beliefs around what they can or cannot sense.
Well, and what's tough too, and I just acknowledge, is most of the people who are the most psychically tuned in are the most traumatized people,
Yeah.
are the people who've walked through the darkest nights. Those people that are so connected. And like when you're talking about people that are in the sex work field or people who have gone through extreme abuse and trauma, they've had to expand their senses for protection. They've had to use their psychic senses so they could evaluate the energy around them to keep themselves safe. And so something developed typically initially from a state of fear and a state of preservation and survival, and then trying to like reform that and reshape that into like, how can I use this for my greatest opportunities and abundance and happiness? Like that's alchemy.
Mhm.
And every intuitive and psychic is a master alchemist. A little more on
Letting
that
that
one.
one hang. Letting that one
Mhm.
hang. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So we're looking for some folks to do some in-person work with. And if
Mhm.
they're interested, where can they find you?
Head to my website, thepracticalpisces.com, or follow me on Instagram. That's where I post everything. That's where you're going to find like up-to-date things. My schedule's been pretty booked out as we're getting into spooky season. So if you want to hop on that opportunity, I'm booked out a couple weeks, which is super exciting. It feels really supportive towards favorite time of year, which means I'm about to be busy and I'm thrilled. And then also just keep an eye out for more art to be put forward. I'm hoping to do a whole like angel series, a bird series, like a flower series, and really putting more focus on my portrait work because it just brings me so much joy. So stay tuned for more in-person opportunities, which will be coming, more in-person opportunities for education and some beautiful artwork.
That's incredible. Incredible. So Tucson, listen up. But of course, you do virtual readings. You do work with people
Yes.
all over the world. So
Mhm.
even if you're not in Tucson, first of all, come visit us. Come
Come
say
visit.
hello. Spooky season's a great time to do it. The weather is incredible. And all of us are out here putting on incredible events and just community building spaces. But you can also work with Chelsey anywhere you are in the world. She's here for you. Any final words before we wrap it on up? 12222. I just looked at the
Ooh.
time of recording.
Well, I would just love to say, part one, like, thank you for hearing my story. No matter how
Mhm.
dark or how heavy, it is written with so much light. And I want you to know that 10 years later, here I am after moving through so much darkness, and I'm still seeing the beauty in every day. I'm still building healthy and happy relationships and connecting with spirit. Understand it doesn't matter like what path you've walked, nor how painful. If you're choosing to step into this path with light and love and connection, you've already changed your fate. And the tarot cards aren't going to tell you that.
Amen. Amen to that. Awesome. Well, Chelsey, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. It was an honor to hear your story. I got a lot of details that I haven't even received yet in our time as friends. I guess we're coming up on a year of being in connection and in community now. I'm grateful that Tucson has brought you here. I'm so excited for everything that you are going to expand into individually and that we are going to expand into as a community. And thank you so much to those who have listened today. If you enjoyed this show, consider sharing it with a friend, and check out some of the other episodes because I've just been floored at how amazing all of the guests have been coming on this and what a project this has been. I will just quickly plug myself once again. If you are in Tucson, I'm going to be doing walk-in astrology readings at Aquamarine Daydream on August 19th. That's a Friday from 11 to 2 p.m., 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you can always check out my website, persephonictarot.com, for information on astrology and tarot readings. All the links for Chelsey's work at the Practical Pisces and my work at Persephonic will be in the show notes here. So check it out. Grab yourself some guidance. Spooky season's a perfect time to get a reading. Anything else to add, Chelsey, to my spiel?
Don't forget to watch Practical Magic this season.
Yeah, don't forget to watch Practical Magic this season and then post about it on your story and tag us so we can see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for
Oh,
having me, Marina. This was such a treat and like such a healing experience. Thank you for being such a beautiful space holder. You amazing Libra, you.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to everyone listening, of course, happy shuffling.